Michael Woodhouse.
Mr Speaker, I asked the previous Speaker, Ms Moroney, when she says that we in this parliament should be focusing on the things that matter, where on earth was that speech a month ago when the Labour Party spent 2 weeks railing against sideshows? And, Mr Speaker, if there was a textbook for beginning MPs, the very first teaching in that textbook would be this, I suggest. If one is going to throw stones, be very careful to ensure that one is not standing in a glass house. Because I have run that gauntlet in those 2-week periods. I have been accused of all manner of things, and I have responded with an absolutely straight bat, declaring everything, listening to people on immigration policy without fear or favour and without any knowledge of donations. So it absolutely amazed me, Mr Speaker, when I heard today that the Labour Party have not been quite as consistent with the solid ground that they wanted us to be on as they should. Because apparently the Labour Party have been receiving donations from a Mr Dong Hua Lu. Not that anybody would know from the Electoral Commission, because it apparently hasn't been declared. So I ask the House whether that failure is imposture or incompetence. Because either way, for a party that aspires to lead this country, whatever the answer is, it's not a good look. And it's certainly not a good look for a Leader of the Opposition who has spent not only the last week but this morning denying unequivocally having had anything to do with Mr Liu. Do you recall ever meeting him? I don't recall ever meeting him. Do you have anything to do with the granting of his permanent residency? And I have to say, I don't normally disagree with the Deputy Prime Minister, but when he said, I don't remember. Actually, Mr Cunliffe said, no, I did not. It wasn't as if he couldn't remember. He said, no, I did not. Imposture or incompetence? Because either way, this fellow aspires to lead this country. And what we have is a man who would change his register of pecuniary interests. No, he will pay the money back before he discloses who supported him in his leadership campaign. He stands in this House and says that Martians are more likely to come than in a boat from Indonesia, and then he dog whistles on immigration policy but does not say what he would do to reduce migrants in this country. That is not the behaviour, Mr Speaker, of somebody who should aspire to lead this country. But you know what, Mr Speaker, he's not alone. 5 months before Mr Cunliffe advocated on behalf of Mr Liu, his ministerial colleague, Chris Carter, not the constituent MP for Mr Liu, it appears, so why he would, who knows, wrote a letter to Immigration New Zealand saying this: look, I know things are a bit slow at immigration at the moment, but Mr Liu has put $3 million in a bank account. I hope it wasn't the Labour Party's bank account, and is keen to purchase a particular building for redevelopment. I would be grateful for any consideration that could be given to expediting this application. That's Mr Chris Carter on behalf of Mr Dong Hua Liu. But here's where it gets really murky, Mr Speaker. What on earth was the Honourable Rick Barker doing? A Minister of the Crown on holiday in China. He doesn't have a ministerial responsibility for economic development. He's not responsible for immigration. He's not responsible for trade. And he goes and visits a concrete factory. He takes time out of his own holiday to visit a concrete factory for a person he claims not to know and cannot recall. Well, I can tell you, Mr Speaker, there appear to me to be a lot of Labour Party members and former members who are very, very forgetful. Now, remember about that consistency, that throwing stones if you're standing in a glass house? Who was the party that accused this side of being a little forgetful? Well, I'm sorry, it must be contagious in this House, because they appear to me to be a heck of a lot more forgetful. Or are they forgetful? I think the public is entitled to ask how forgetful Labour Party members really are, because with the benefit of hindsight, they only seem to remember things when they are publicly disclosed. This party, this government, has played a straight bat on every single disclosure it was meant to make. And when it comes to the ballot box, my grandfather's first cousin, that has been absolutely cleared up. Clark knows it, Curran knows it. Stop telling fibs. Mr Speaker, the public has a right to know the truth, and they will make it at the ballot box.
Moana Mackie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. That member is a minister in the government, but his mouth so often works for the opposition. Now, I want to actually talk about something that matters. I want to talk about jobs.